Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Today, I want to continue our topic of the week, it seems, and talk about striker-fired handguns again. I don't usually talk about striker-fired guns because I'm not a big striker-fired fan. I like double-action, single-action, hammer-fired guns. But I've recently fallen in love with the new SIG AXG models. Shot them a lot lately, and even more so in the last day or so, unfortunately. But been shooting them a lot, so I've been talking about them, so I've been getting a lot of questions about them. Well, I got a question from a viewer after my video yesterday about the differences between how a striker-fired gun operates internally and a hammer-fired gun operates. And they asked me, well, based on what you've said and how the striker-fireds have that same light trigger pull for every pull and don't have that heavier first trigger pull like a double-action gun, which is when I said why I prefer double-action, single-action. They said, because of that, are striker-fired guns safe for carry at all, or are they too dangerous? Well, to answer that question, I'm going to have to be a little in-depth here, so bear with me. There are a lot of risks in the world, and there are risks we have to take every day. But there's things we should do every time we take a risk to make sure that risk isn't any greater than it needs to be. So when we're carrying a gun, does it make more sense to carry a gun that we're less likely to have an ND with, a negligent discharge? Well, it does. And to me, it makes great sense. If you have a gun and you know, hey, the chances of me using this gun for self-defense are very slim. And I think most gun owners could admit that because we don't live in a real dangerous country. Because of we're free to defend ourselves, it's not rampant violence everywhere. It's a great precautionary thing. Armed society is a polite society. So we don't live in a world where we're likely to use our carry gun. Just it being there is enough. But we do handle it all the time. We take it out of our holster, we put it in our holster, we load it, we unload it, we do all kinds of things with our guns. So as part of carrying it every day. So should we mitigate the risk of having an ND by carrying something that's either double action, single action, hammer fired, or at least has a safety, some people say. But I'm not going to bring safeties into any of this. Whether your gun has a safety or not, I'm going to pretend all guns do not because I do not trust safeties. You should not trust safeties. I always assume a safety is off. You should always assume the safety is off, and you'll be much happier for it in the long run, I'm pretty sure. You'll never make a mistake if you always assume every gun is loaded until you check otherwise or confirm otherwise, and always make sure that every gun you assume the safety's off. So with that being said, should we mitigate the risk? Yes, you should. I believe it's a good idea. That's why I like double action, single action. It reduces my risk of having a negligent discharge. And if you want to see a real world example of how that risk does increase with striker fireds, just look at the police departments when they transitioned from revolvers to Glocks and how their NDs skyrocketed. Because a small mistake that would have been forgiven with a revolver may not be forgiven with a striker fired gun. That light trigger is not very forgiving. So their rates of NDs inside departments skyrocketed to the point where a lot of departments almost went away from semi-automatic guns. They almost went back to revolvers. If it hadn't been for budget concerns, a lot of them would have. So it is a risk. But, there's risks in everyday life. You could easily say right now that it's riskier to drive a Mustang every day. We all have to get somewhere every day, but it's riskier to drive like a Mustang GT than it is Volvo. It's far riskier. So we should all just drive Volvos, right? Because it's safer. Because that Mustang GT, it's got more power, it's rear-wheel drive, it's easier to get away from you. If it is in an accident, you're more likely to be injured because it's smaller, lighter. So there's all kinds of things about the Mustang that make it more dangerous. But would we ever say everyone should drive a Volvo? Because not only do you decrease your chances of being in an accident, period, but you also, if you are in one, you increase your chances of getting out of it uninjured. That makes perfect sense, and it's true, but it doesn't mean everyone should drive a Volvo. It means you should, if you drive a Mustang, be capable of handling that Mustang. Know the rules are different between that Volvo and that Mustang. Know if it's the pavement's wet or it's raining, I can't stomp the gas out of the stoplight. If I do, I'm going to end up in the ditch, which is common for Mustang drivers, or end up facing the wrong way in traffic. Believe me, I've done it in my Challenger when I had my Challenger. So I know how that goes. So there is extra risk in driving that Mustang. Same thing with striker fireds. But if you learn how to drive that Mustang and you understand the rules and you exercise the rules, you'll be fine. Same thing with striker-fired guns. Just understand the differences. And understand a striker-fired might not be applicable in every situation where a double-action, single-action gun would be. So I think it's a good idea to carry double-action, single-action all the time to lessen your chances of having an ND while you're handling your gun, because I don't think it's going to make any difference in a self-defense scenario. So why take a risk in a self-defense scenario that you don't have to take? That's just my own personal opinion. But I also believe people can completely mitigate the risk just by being trained, knowing not to touch the trigger. It doesn't matter if your trigger is more forgiving because it's 8 pounds or less forgiving because it's 2 pounds if you don't touch the trigger. Period. If you learn that. If you don't point your gun at anything you don't want to shoot ever, well, then you're not going to have a problem. Even if it goes off, you'll destroy a piece of furniture or the floor or something, even if you have an ND. So if you just follow basic rules, you'll probably be fine. That's just the way it is. So you do have extra risk, like I said, but it can be mitigated through practice, knowing what you're carrying, etc. Also, know that it's not appropriate everywhere. Like if you're going to appendix carry, striker-fireds aren't appropriate. Period. I'm sorry. I don't even approve of appendix carry itself generally. And all the arguments people make about it, like, oh, it's more comfortable. Oh, it's faster. Oh, that's garbage. Garbage. I've carried appendix. I've carried every position. I know which is, things are different for every person, but I guarantee you any person right now carrying appendix, I could set them up a rig just as comfortable, if not more comfortable, in another position where they aren't risking injuring themselves. So I don't approve of appendix carry, period, and all that, oh, it shaves 1/10 of a second off my draw. Well, let's see. You go print out all the examples you can find real world of where 1/10 of a second saved someone's life in a self-defense situation. I'll print out all the instances of where someone killed themselves or seriously injured themselves carrying appendix, and we'll see whose stack is higher. And that's called risk assessment. And if you're too stupid to do risk assessment, then you're probably too stupid to carry a gun. So if you're carrying a gun, appendix carry, and it's a striker-fired gun, you're just telling me you're an idiot. It's not appropriate for that. Well, some of the people I know, when they get confronted with that, will be like, well, I don't carry one in the chamber. Well, that's way more dangerous than carrying at 3 o'clock instead of appendix. You should always carry a gun with a round in the chamber. I'm not going to tell you have to, because just the fact you got a gun makes you prepared for most situations. But if you want to be uber tactical, then don't you want a round in your chamber? And if you are going to carry appendix, carry something that's double action, single action. Has a little bit heavier of a trigger pull in case something does get in the way of that trigger. Something gets in your holster and you don't know it. And a lot of these guys will be like, well, you just never touch your gun while it's in your holster. You never have to worry about it. I'm like, you always have to holster the gun after you load it to carry it. And then some of these same idiots that say that, just never touch it, will make videos where they're like drawing from appendix, bam, 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 firing a few shots, reholstering it quickly, turning, drawing it again, firing again. Do you know how dangerous that was? How ridiculously, unnecessarily dangerous that was? So don't carry striker-fired if you're going to carry appendix. If you are going to carry appendix, I'm going to be like, probably not the brightest guy. If you're going to carry appendix and you go, yeah, but I carry a revolver, or I carry a double action, single action SIG, I'll be like, he's taking a risk, but at least he's, reducing his risk. If you're carrying appendix and striker-fired, I'm just going to assume you trained with James Yeager or something. Not the brightest bulb. So striker-fireds are inherently a little riskier than double action, single action, but they also excel at some things. That first shot being the same weight, that's really the big advantage. And not having something that can get fouled up, like the trigger, which I've never seen that happen, but people make issues out of it. So striker-fireds are, like I said, a little more dangerous, but they're totally acceptable, and they're within acceptable parameters as long as you know how to use the gun. But there are some things I would not use striker-fired for. Just like I wouldn't use a Ford Mustang to drive Uber, I wouldn't use a striker-fired for appendix carry. That's just two things that don't go together. But for everyday carry, for normal things you do, and for a person who familiarizes themselves with their gun and knows how to use it and doesn't break the rules, you'll be fine with a striker-fired gun. In fact, they're affordable, they're available, they're awesome, and they're some of the best guns on the market today. So if you're wanting to carry a striker, carry one. Just know it's up to you to know how to use it. All right, with that being said, continuing with the emails and continuing with the Striker Fired theme here, I want to answer another email where the person asked me, hey, how are you doing on your celibacy from shooting? You know, I fell off the wagon there, shot like 1,500 rounds of ammo when I said I wasn't going to be shooting during the ammo apocalypse here. They said, how are you doing? Because I mentioned I was 3 days sober, or 3 days clean off of shooting. And I was going to try to get my 1 week chip. I was hoping they gave those. I don't know if they do or not. They said, how are you doing? And how are you liking the AXG, the SIG? Well, I'm not going to give them a chip because I fell off the wagon, shot another 500 rounds. So that's not going to happen. But I had a good reason for it. And this kind of answers how I'm liking my SIG. I noticed that the recoil assemblies in my two AXGs, my Classic and my Scorpion, are different. And the Scorpion was much smoother. The SIG was not as smooth. It was good, but it wasn't as smooth as the Scorpion. But then I started thinking, well, maybe it's because I have put 1,000 rounds through the Scorpion and haven't shot the Classic. Well, I didn't want to go out and shoot the Classic. So what I did is I took the CPU and the internals from the Classic, put them in the Scorpion to where the Scorpion now wasn't as clean and smooth as the Classic. And then I took it out and put 500 rounds through it to see if it changed anything. Because like I said, the recoil springs are different. I don't know if I mentioned that, but the recoil springs, I noticed the assembly is actually physically different. The one that's smoother is one style, and the one that's not as smooth is another style. So I thought, well, maybe it's because I shot this one. So I wanted to go out and shoot the other one, and I'll have more information for you about that on Monday, how they stacked up towards each other or in comparison to each other, you know what I mean? And if it was just that I had shot the other gun more, or is the Scorpion cleaner? Did they change the recoil assembly? Is there a reason for it? Whatever. So I'll have more information for that on that for you Monday. But as far as staying on the wagon and not shooting, no, I fell off the wagon. But I like to rationalize it by saying I had a good reason. All right, everybody, I want to end the show today by talking about a fundraiser we have going on right now. Actually, I want to give you a little update here, and I want to change it some. We started a fundraiser yesterday for Max, a little Boston Terrier who got injured and needs surgery. He's got like 18 staples in his hip or something like that now. I mean, the poor little dog. It's just sad. But he racked up a vet bill of $2,500 that the family couldn't cover. So I said, well, we'll cover as much of it as we could. And I said, if we get close, I'll cover the rest. If we don't get close, I'll just match whatever we raise. Well, all that's moot now because thanks to the generosity of everybody who went over and donated $5, $10, and even some people who donated $25 and $50 and even $100, we were going to have half the money by today. I was going to be able to sit here today and say we're halfway there after one day. But because of one donator, or one patron, I guess I should say, or Good Samaritan, Edgar C., who donated half of what we needed, now we're at the full amount we need. So we don't need to raise any more for them. In fact, we'll be donating that in the next day or so. But I don't want to stop the giveaway. I mean, I've still got 10 hats left. So I thought I'd move on, and I found another puppy. This is Natasha, and Natasha belongs to Leave On, and this is actually a friend of my sister. My sister works at a clinic downtown. She's security at a clinic downtown that deals with low-income people. People that are homeless, people that are living on disability, Social Security, lots of vets that are homeless. So she runs into a lot of people down there, makes a lot of friends. Well, this is one of the friends she met while they were on the street. This person has had this dog, Natasha, a little Pomeranian, for 9 years, 3 of which they were homeless on the street together. Well, now Natasha has a tumor in her mouth and is needing surgery. And it's going to cost $1,200. And they don't have that kind of money. They're back on their feet. They're working. They have an apartment. Even though they have medical condition where they have seizures, they still found a job that's that they can do while still having that condition. And Natasha is actually their therapy dog. She warns for seizures whenever she's about to have a seizure. Natasha warns her through a special trained activity, and it lets her take precautions to protect herself against her seizure. So Natasha is not only just a beloved friend, she's a therapy animal, and she is in great need of care. She's suffering. So I wanted to raise money also for Natasha now. Like I said, this is someone my sister knows. So I wanted to do that, but what I decided I would do is I would just keep the fundraiser going. We'll keep, the hats every day. If anyone goes over to tympistolproject.com and donates $5 or more, for every $5 you get an entry for that day. And that day we give away a hat. Tomorrow, or tonight actually, during live chat, we'll give away 2 hats, because we're of course going to give Edgar one and then take him out of the running so that other people have a chance at winning one, because he would probably win because he had like 3/4 of the entries. But we're going to keep doing that for the next 8 days. We're just going to give an extra hat away today and shorten it by 1 day. But then what we're going to do is we're going to fund this other puppy in need. Hopefully through the last few days of it, we can get another $1,200. So going to do that, but what I'm going to do is I don't want that puppy to suffer. Poor little thing is suffering. So I have told them today, I actually made a small donation today just so I could comment and sent my sister an email saying, let them know, take that dog to the vet right now. I'll have them the money tonight. Actually, I didn't say I would. I said the TYMP would, the Yankee Marshal Posse would have that money for that doggy tonight. So I'm going to front the money for that. I'm actually going to do it. Don't think I'm being generous and doing it with my money, because I don't have enough money right now to do it unless I dipped into investments or savings. But I do have the money sitting there for the TYM Pistol Project. I'm going to go ahead and forward that over to this doggy, and then we'll put it back as we go. I'm sure we'll raise it all back, so nothing will suffer. And if something happens, we don't raise it back, I'll put the money back in TYMP with my own cash, because by then I'll get paid. But just want to let everyone know we're altering it. Max is covered. Got Max covered. Now we're going to work on Natasha. We're going to have her covered tonight, because I'm going to go ahead and pay it. We just have to earn it back over the next several days. So if you want to help, same rules, go over to tympistolproject.com, donate $5 or more. For every $5 you donate, you'll get 1 entry for that day. And then at the end of every day at the live chat, we will go and draw a name. And that person will get one of these hats. There's only 12 of these hats in existence, and one of them's mine, so there's only going to be 11 people out there with one. So go over, donate if you want one. And we all know it's not about the hat. It's about helping a puppy. The hat's just the least I can do for people actually coming together and helping. So go over, donate. We're going to keep it up. We're not going to help one puppy this time. We're going to help at least 2. Oh, God, I would love it if we got to where we could have money at the end where we could help a 3rd puppy. So it's going strong, and as long as I've got the hats, I figure I might as well do the whole thing. I could quit right now and only have to mail 2 hats. That would be awesome. But we can do more, and since I don't have any reason for 9 of the same hat, we can go ahead and keep it up. So join in, help save some puppies, help alleviate their suffering, and help alleviate the suffering of the owners that have to make tough decisions when they can't afford medical care. So help us out with that. Come together as a community and see how much good we can do. I think we're already showing, especially with the generosity of people like Edgar C., how much good we can do when we come together. So keep it up, and we'll save at least 2 puppies with this little hat giveaway. So thanks to everyone that already has participated, and thanks in advance to all those of you that I know that will participate. All right, everybody, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you come back again on Monday. Until then, I just want to sign off, as usual, by saying, as far as the state of the world today is concerned, it is what it is. It could be worse, but it could be better. And what it will be in the future if we continue to ignore the fearmongers and the shills and the profiteers, the people that want to manipulate you through anger and fear to profit for their own self-interest instead of the interest of the gun community as a whole. If we keep those people in line and we remember who they are, and therefore don't give them too much of a voice in the gun community, if we can do that, what things will be in the very near future for people who believe in the Second Amendment and freedom in general in this country is a lot better.